I have been playing a lot of Mega Man Battle Arc 4 for the past about a year and a half now, where I was doing my Mega Man Battle Arc 4 Mono Soul challenge runs, where I was taking the patch cards available for the Double Souls in Mega Man Battle Arc 4 and playing through the game from a start of a fresh save file up until the first duo fight, using only that Double Soul, and in addition limiting my folder to make sure it fits the theme of that Double Soul. And since I have finally finished my Wind Soul run, which the video will be out for in about a couple weeks from today's upload, I decided I was going to make a tier list kind of talking about each of the Double Souls and my experience with those runs and putting them on this tier list. So we're gonna hop right into it by first going over the tiers. So S tier is of course the runs that were the most fun, maybe were a little bit challenging but not like overly challenging or anything like that. There was a good folder available to me and things along those lines. Fun and fair would be the runs that I did have a really good time with, and they weren't like insanely difficult. They weren't like, there wasn't anything in those runs that made them like feel like they were unplayable at times. Fun but unfair would be, you know, there were some issues with the run, something that kind of made it feel a little bit like annoying or whatnot, but it was still a fun one to play that I really much enjoyed. Not fun, but fair or too easy is going to be for the runs that it just felt like there wasn't actually a challenge in them whatsoever, or they just weren't as entertaining or interesting as some of the other runs. And then terrible runs is going to be for Wood Soul. I mean, for any of the runs that really felt like they were unfair, like the folder was way too restricted, things along those lines. So we're going to start off, we're going to go in order. I have the Double Souls at the bottom of the screen here, basically in order that I played them. Of course, with my name being Proto Demon, I started with Proto Soul, and that one I think I'm going to put under fun and fair difficulty. So the reason I'm doing this also is because there was some difficulty in not having access to my Buster. I remember in particular, despite how long ago this was, I do remember Shade Man being a little bit problematic for me in these runs because of the fact that Shade Man, you know, the best way of dealing with him is you're supposed to make him disappear by hitting him, and usually the best way of doing that is by using your Buster. Didn't have the ability to do that because my rules for the Proto Soul run were no Busters allowed whatsoever. But the thing is that with this run, I would refine it. I do plan on redoing the Proto Soul run specifically because I hadn't really refined my rules. I didn't really have like the rule set like set in stone yet for the like duration of all the runs. And so in this run I was using invis, I was using recovery chips, which I think kind of makes the run, like it kind of cheapened the run a little bit and made it a little bit too easy in my personal opinion. I was able to just use invis and then spam my sword chips to my heart's content. I mean, the folder available to me was great. A lot of S-code chips, obviously sword, wide sword, long sword, and custom sword all come in S-code as well as area grab. So that was actually really good. The reflect shield, I didn't really use as much as I should have because of the fact that I did not use, because I had invis and whatnot. So I would put this one, as I played it, I would put it in fun and fair. I feel like even if I wasn't using invis and the like recovery chips and all those other like defensive options that I banned for the remaining runs, I definitely think that this one would be under fun and fair either way. Same goes for Gut Soul. Same goes for Gut Soul because Gut Soul really had like the one tool that really like made that run ridiculously easy was Super Vulcan. Having access to Super Vulcan just allowed me to do, I think, like 480 damage, I think, right? Because each Super Vulcan, yeah, it's 480 damage with just Super Vulcan on Gut Soul, right? Without using any attack modifying chips, no attack plus 10 or 30 or color point or anything like that. And I'm still doing that much damage with just the single chip. Like Gut Soul, like the run was made so much easier just by having access to that one chip. Duo was a little bit difficult in this run. I remember, I didn't have footage of me fighting Duo, but I do remember dying to Duo like 4 or 5 times. So Gut Soul was the first one that had like 30 deaths, I believe is how many I had at the end of that one. But, you know, either way, it was fine. I did enjoy the Gut Soul run. The Gut Soul run also gave me a lot more of an appreciation for Gut Soul, and this is something that's going to happen a lot. We're going to see that for a lot of these runs. I'm going to have an appreciation for them, like for that Double Soul after I play that run. Moving on to Metal Soul. Metal Soul I think is actually going to be the first one that I put under fun, but somewhat unfair. Because again, it's Metal Soul. Like, Metal Soul's really good. You have access to, you know, strong chips. I was, I think for both Gut Soul and Metal Soul, I ended up doing, I think it was like a C code folder or like B code. Like I was using Twin Fangs and High Cannons and all that stuff because they get boosted by, it's like I had almost the exact same folder in both of them. And with Metal Soul, the one thing that sucked about Metal Soul was, of course, with Metal Soul, I wanted to use Air Hockey. Air Hockey is like one of the best chips in the game. Even if it's just Air Hockey 1, it's still a good chip. I could charge it for double damage. Air Hockey 3 was available to me because Air Hockey 3 I was able to get from the chip trader, or lotto code rather, obviously. So I did have access to Air Hockey 3, and that chip is ridiculous how strong it is. But there was one key issue with the Metal Soul run, which is the very end of the game, which is what made it unfair. Because my Dark Soul actually became a threat. I think this was like one of the only runs where the Dark Soul was a threat, because the Dark Soul was using Air Hockey against me. The problem with that was that I could not use Air Hockey against my Dark Soul in return, because Air Hockey does not work against Duo, since Duo has holes over his area, right? He doesn't have panels technically, he just floats in space. And so the Air Hockey chip, among many others in Balnor 4, kind of become invalidated against Duo. So since I couldn't bring Air Hockey into the final folder, that kind of made the Dark Soul and Duo fights a little bit harder, which is why I'm putting Metal Soul under fun, but unfair. I also didn't really use Super Vulcan in this run. I know that Super Vulcan is part of, Metal Soul is part of the Silver Bullet combo, which I've been talking about a lot in Folder Decoder lately. But the thing about this is that, Metal Soul, unfortunately, without damage modifying chips, it's only doubling the Super Vulcan to 100, from 120 to 240 damage, whereas Gut Soul was quadrupling the damage of the chip, right? So I was not allowing Attack Plus chips in this run, and so without the Attack Plus chips, it was kind of just pointless, to have Super Vulcan in here. Moving on to Roll Soul. I believe Roll Soul was like the only one where I had less than 10 deaths, and so definitely going into, not that it's not fun, but too easy. So the thing about these Double Soul runs, and part of the challenge of it, was that the patch cards, they're insanely strong. Being able to permanently keep on a Double Soul, for the entire game, and not worrying about a 3-turn limit for them is ridiculously strong as an ability. But in exchange, having that HP bug, I think it's a fair trade-off. Yeah, you get to use the Double Souls permanently, but your health's gonna get dangerously low as the game continues. Even if you're not taking hits, your health is going lower and lower and lower. And as you're exploring on the net and fighting virus battle after virus battle, and I had an unspoken rule that for the most part, 99% of virus battles I did not run away from. It was kind of like an unspoken rule. I didn't want to run away from virus fights because I felt that would kind of circumvent the whole HP bug issue. But Roll Soul, because of the fact that every chip heals you when you use Roll Soul, I decided to make it so that every chip was available to me in that run, and so I was able to make folders that were quite fluid and had a lot of star code chips and whatnot, and so Roll Soul was just a little bit too easy as a result of that, because I was able to just completely heal myself and kind of just circumvent that HP bug. I, at the end of it, had 340 HP, I believe it was, and so every chip I used was basically like a recover 34, as well as being the actual chip that it is. And then in addition to that, Roll Soul is just, it was too easy because I was able to use every chip that I wanted, and healing, every single time I used a chip, it's the threat was gone. I did die to Duo a few times, but Duo was the only real threat in this run, honestly. There were a few other deaths. I don't even remember what I died to. Wouldn't be surprised if it was to Melody viruses, because those things really beat me up in these runs. But yeah, Roll Soul, not that it wasn't fun, but just way too easy. Way too easy of a run. Then we're gonna go into Number Soul, where Number Soul was interesting. I don't really know. I don't want to put Number Soul under fun and fair, but I'm debating how much fun I had with the Number Soul run. I was able to use Program Advances, which was really fun, and so that would make it kind of under fun and fair. But I think I'm gonna put not fun for one specific reason. But I didn't even feel bad about having it here, honestly. It definitely wasn't unfair. But maybe maybe it was more so under too easy, I would say. The problem with Number Soul was that the damage modifier on it is really like having chips that were like that I was allowed to use was super awkward. Like, yeah, I'm allowed to use color point and attack plus 10. Cool. Double point and attack plus 30 I could not use because neither double point nor attack plus 30 is actually available in the first playthrough of the game. And so as a result, I simply, like, you know, I can only use attack plus 10. And the only other thing that Number Soul provides is 10 damage on non-elemental chips, which was okay on Vulcan, but other than that, it just felt really awkward. And so what I did with Number Soul is actually the same thing I did later on with Search Soul, which was allowing program advances. This, like, I think kind of made the game too easy because with 10 chips available, it was not too difficult to cycle through some of my chips, like using my null element chips to like do some chip damage and then finding program advances later on to finish off the run. And so Number Soul, like, just in that regard, was just a little bit too easy. I know I had a lot of deaths. I think Number Soul was one of the ones where most of my deaths came from I was trying to go into the internet to collect bug frags and money and whatnot, and then I just end up dying numerous times in the internet. Especially, I know Internet 6 was a huge threat in these runs. So I think that Number Soul can also go under the too easy category, and just not as fun as some of the others. Like, I couldn't use my charge attack, really. Like, Dice Bomb as a charge attack, it sucks. I don't like it. It's not as, it's actually might be worse than Medi's Capsules in Valorant 5 for Medisoul, but either way, like, Number Soul just, you know, it was just a little bit easy because of that, even though I did die a lot. That's another thing, is that the number of deaths in a run doesn't, like, really correlate with how easy the run is. Thunder Soul is, I mean, there's no question about that. There's no doubt in my mind, Thunder Soul was the S tier run. I have such an appreciation for Thunder Soul after that run. Thunder Soul, just being able to lock down enemies and make it so that they literally just could not move at all just by hitting a single chip. Thunder Soul was the one where I really, like, perfected the C code folder that had, like, I know I think I might have had Cannon C. High Cannon comes into C code, Twin Fang 1 comes into C code. Those are both readily available in the first playthrough of the game. I know Binder is actually insanely good with Thunder Soul because if you hit an opponent and paralyze them and they're like 2 panels away from you, you can just use the Binder to get full hits. Duo, again, Duo did kill me like once or twice when I played Thunder Soul, but Duo was almost like, it just completely invalidated him. And the thing about Thunder Soul is, usually Thunder Soul is severely limited by its the turn limit, because you can only have Thunder Soul for 3 turns. And so on the first turn you have to activate Thunder Soul, and then you could choose 4 chips. So you have 4 chips that can paralyze, then on the next 2 turns you have 5 and 5 chips. So overall you can have 14 chips, which is about half your folder, 14 chips to paralyze enemies with, which is not bad. But in this Thunder Soul run, where I was permanently in Thunder Soul and never had to worry about like losing access to it, I could go through my entire folder beginning to end, just permanently stun locking an enemy. The only real issue I had with Thunder Soul was anywhere where I had multiple virus fights. That was a bit of a problem. Getting the Thunder chip in the star code was also a little bit of a problem. It took me a while to get that because you need to S rank or 10 rank the Billy EX viruses, which was a little bit annoying, but even that I ended up pulling off after a few failed duo attempts. So honestly, Thunder Soul, very much a newfound appreciation for Thunder Soul. I think it is absolutely incredible, a very fun run, the best run out of all 12 in my personal opinion. Loved it, absolutely loved playing with Thunder Soul. Then we get into Aqua Soul, and I'm going to put it under fun and fair. Look, you have, like, the charge shot kind of sucks, we're not going to lie. Like, the bubbler charge shot doing 20 damage only is crap. But you get access to bubbler so early on, you get access to wide shot so early on. I was able to do a mostly on code folder with, I think it was, I ended up, so this is the run where I learned, something I actually learned from these runs was that there are areas in the game, like there are comps throughout the world where you can actually get level 2 viruses in game 1. I did not know this growing up. I did not know this for the first several runs, and it was in the Aqua Soul run where I kind of learned, oh my god, if I go to this fountain comp in in the Dendome, I could fight level 2 Lark viruses. Oh my god, that means I can get access to Wide Shot too. And kind of just from there, went down the rabbit hole that I kind of used for like the remainder of the runs, where I was like, oh, I was actually able to make a fully fledged, like just straight up Aqua folder. And it was a little bit, it was a little bit alphabet soupy. But I believe in this folder I had Wide Shot comes in the C code. I believe Bubbler V, because I was able to fight Shrimpy 2 viruses as well. Bubbler V comes into C code, or I think I might have done D code actually. So like Wide Shot comes into D code, Bubbler V comes into D code, in Antopia area Green Mystery Data is in game 1. So that was like 8 chips right there that are Aqua type and on code. I think I was able to do like obviously Bubbler, PQ, come in PQR codes. I was able to do that. Geyser, I remember one notable moment was I fought Burnman in tournament like 5 times in total. Like I fought Burnman, beat him, reset the game, fought him again, beat him, reset the game, and then on the last one, I finally just turn 1, got I think Cannonball and Geyser, threw the Cannonball, charged the Geyser, threw that, it did 800 damage and just completely just one-shot him. Like that was a beautiful moment in that run. So definitely Aqua Soul was actually a lot of fun. Making the folder, even though it was alphabet soupy, was very fun, and it was fair. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't overly difficult. The only difficult part, of course, was grinding for level 2 chips, really. That was, you know, trying to get the Wide Shot 2s and the Bubbler Vs. That was pretty much the only difficulty there. I just want to take a quick sip of water. Moving on to Fire Soul, where, I mean, there's no question here either. Fire Soul was another S tier. Like, absolutely, way too, like, I almost want to put it under not fun or too easy, because it definitely was too easy, but no, I'm putting this in S tier. Fire Soul is balanced for the second playthrough of the game. Fire Soul you can only obtain in game 2 in Red Sun, and so it is balanced towards that. Charge fire chips do 150 damage with the firearm, right? That is very much meant for game 2. But the thing about this was that I was playing in game 1, which means basically every single virus that I could fight in this game had less than 150 HP. I could one-shot every single virus. As if that wasn't good enough, the difference between the Fire Soul run and the Aqua Soul run, and the reason why I would again want to put Fire Soul under too easy, was that I had something that Roll Soul had, which was healing. I could use Heat Breath and heal HP, but I also had something that Aqua Soul was missing, or at least slightly better at. This folder was still a little bit alphabet soupy, because I had a lot of chips in like different codes. I had like Element Flare came in N code and P code, I think. Then I have Heat Breath, which was O code and K code, and then I had the majority of the chips though. 16 chips in this folder were all chips that were on code with each other. Heat Shot, Heat V, Flame Line 2 all come into D code. Heat Shot is available because it's the first playthrough. Heat V is available through Green Mystery Datas. Flame Line 2 available in the D code in Yumland area, which is the same place I believe, or actually no, that was in Flame Line 2 was in Nefrica area in Green Mystery Datas. Then we had access to the Heat Shot chip, or sorry, Heat V in the D code was in Yumland area, and Flame Line 1 comes in the Star code in Yumland area. So I spent a lot of time in this run grinding for chips in the, in Green Mystery Datas in the international areas, but so worth it, dude. This folder was ridiculous. I think Black Bomb also comes in the D code. I don't remember where you get it in D code. I'm pretty sure I had it though, so it was just way too easy. And this is missing the Heat Side that also comes in D code for the Heat Spread Program Advance, because that's only available starting in game 2. So I mean, even without that, like the folder for Fire Soul was incredible. Absolutely, like I loved playing the Fire Soul run. It was so good. Moving on to Wind Soul. I hinted at it earlier. I'm gonna put it under terrible run, not as fun, very unfair. Part of it was my own fault. I went through the first tournament without any wood chips. I think I got side bamboo 1 off of the chip trader in Higsby's shop, but that was it. Like, that was the only wood chip I had. The problem that I had was that I didn't realize that I could fight boomer viruses in the stereo comp in Electown, like literally the first comp that you jack into in the game. Go figure. But I mean, the issue really with the Witzel was that the difficulty curve was really weird, where I had a very, very weak early game. Like, even if I had my boomers, Boomer is the only chip I have access to, so if I had 4 copies of Boomers and the 1 side bamboo, unless I had gotten really lucky and got like Cannon Star or Spreader Star from Battle Mystery Datas in the town area, I had nothing going for me really in the Witzel run. So I pretty much just relied on like Sandring and Tornado for the longest time. Later on in the run, as I started getting more like wood chips, I was able to get Boomer 1 and 2, Side Bamboo 1 and 2. I had a kind of nice, like, there's Side Bamboo 2 and Twin Fang 2 are available in the same area. It turns out that the statue comp, and I got super lucky with this, so that kind of, I would honestly say that this run, I got extremely good luck at the end game, where I got the Junkman scenario as the first scenario of the final tournament, which gave me access to Yumland, which gave me access to the statue comp, which is where you get the level 2 Kilby and Walla viruses, which means I was able to get Twin Fang 2 and Side Bamboo 2 for the entire final tournament. So the difficulty curve was insanely difficult at the start of this run for Wood Soul and ridiculously easy at the end. Overall though, like, it's not that I didn't have fun with it. Sorry, just taking another sip of water. No, it's not that I didn't have fun with the Wood Soul run. It's just that, in my opinion, it was a weird difficulty curve, a weird limited charge attack, very strong, obviously, because the charge attack is basically Tornado, but like still kind of awkward to use. I remember like going up against Tetsu and just dying so many times in that gauntlet against like in Tetsu's scenario, because I couldn't do anything. All I had access to was 1 Side Bamboo and Tornado. And I think that if I had the 4 Boomers in my folder, that section would have been a little bit easier, but still would have been like really, really difficult. So I think that Wood Soul we could put under terrible run. And I love Wood Soul. This is not me saying, you know, that Wood Soul's bad or anything, but it was just super weird difficulty curve. Like, having nothing at the start, towards the end having not only like the Side Bamboo and Twin Fang 2 to power it up, but I had Wood Powder. Wood Powder was available to me at the end of the game, and so I believe Wood Soul was my first Deathless duo. It was either Wood or Fire Soul, but I think it was Wood Soul was my first duo run where I was Deathless, because how is Duo gonna kill me when I have access to Wood Powder to put grass on my field, and I have Undershirt? Like, you know, it was just impossible for me to die. Search Soul. That's probably gonna cause a lot of anger. Search Soul was a fun run. It's Search Soul. It's great, right? But as much as I praise Chip Shuffle, and as much as I do still think that Search Soul is one of the best chips, or one of the best double souls in the game because of Chip Shuffle, I think I limited myself too much in this run by making it so I did the same thing that I did with Number Soul. But Number Soul, I was allowed to use Program Advances, and I was allowed to use non-element chips because Number Soul gives them 10 damage. Search Soul has no damage modifiers at all, and so I decided, you know what, we're going to do Program Advances only. And so chip shuffling to find my program advances actually became a bit awkward, especially when there were turns where I was not actually like locking in any chips because I had a bunch of different program advances. And if I chip shuffled and all that showed up was like pieces of my program advances, I wasn't going to take those pieces, lose out on that potential damage, you know? So Search Soul was very, very easy early on when I had access to like Life Sword. I think I might have had Bubbler or Heat Spread or Heat Spread or whatever. But I had Life Sword, of course, at the very start of the game, and I had H-Burst as well that I was using throughout the game. And I had my the scope gun charge shot is insanely good. This was the run where I finally ended up getting access to Sparkman. This was like the only run where Sparkman showed up for whatever reason. Out of 12 runs, one of them had Sparkman, the other 11 had Topman. Like whatever, go figure. But I remember that when I fought against Sparkman, I actually decided not to use any chips at all, and I literally only used the scope gun and nothing else. Like. And it worked. I beat Sparkman using only the scope gun, like, because that attack for early game is really, really good. But it kind of fell off in the late game where I was, chip shuffling, not getting my program advances, getting pieces of my program advances that I couldn't lock in for a turn. Tried limiting how many program advances I had in my folder towards the end of it, but, ultimately I ended up winning. Life Sword is just too good, so no surprises there. Junk Soul. I don't know where to put Junk Soul. So Junk Soul, what I'm going to say is that I don't want to put it under too easy because it actually wasn't. I think what I'm going to do is, I don't know if I want to put it under, we'll put it under somewhat unfair, and this kind of evens it out and makes a nice little curve of 2, 3, 3, 2. So it's like a, it looks a little bit like a bell curve now. The reason why I would say it was unfair is, again, I limited myself too much. I did not know what to do with the rule set for Junk Soul. Every other run, it was super obvious. Well, Fire Soul, we're going to use Fire Chips only. Well, Aqua Soul, we're going to use Aqua Chips only. For Wood Soul, we're going to use Wood Chips and non-damage and null element chips to power them up. Well, Meta Soul is going to be non-element and breaker chips. Gut Soul is going to be ground breaking, aka literally just Vulcan, or Magnum rather, and non-damaging or null element chips, so like Vulcans and Magnums. And I don't even remember if I got any copies of Magnum in the V code, unfortunately. I don't think I got any copies of Magnum from Gut Soul. This was before I was spending time grinding for chips on screen with the Gut Soul run, so I did not. That actually, worth mentioning also that the Search Soul run, another thing I would say is unfair was trying to get the pop-up chip in the star code. Dude, that took me like an hour and a half to get just 3 copies of the chip, and it was just torture. Trying to get specific chips from mystery datas, like battle mystery datas, is torture in this game. But for Junk Soul, the awkwardness of Junk Soul was that A, you don't have a charge attack at the start of the game, and B, I couldn't make the rule set obstacle chips only because you have no obstacle chips at the start of the game, and you don't have a charge shot. So if I had done obstacle chips only, it would have been impossible to do this run. It would have been a Buster only run, and I'm not trying to play Mega Man Battle Network using only my Buster. I don't remember who does that on YouTube, but I know someone has done that before. I'm not doing that. Like I love myself too much, and I don't want to make myself hate any of the Battle Network games by doing that to myself. So what I did with Junk Soul instead was I allowed every chip, but in exchange I had to use at least 1 recycled chip every turn. So there were a few times where I forgot that rule and like locked in a non-recycled chip, and then I'd be like, oh wait a second, this chip was not recycled, I can't use it. And so there was like some turns where I did nothing, and some deaths were caused by that, which is fine. That's that's okay with me. But it was just kind of, Junk Soul was a little bit awkward in that regard. I had a lot of deaths. I think Junk Soul might have been the most deaths. I believe Junk Soul was the one that hit like 50 deaths. 55 I think was, or 56 was the final death count, which was ridiculous, like how many times I died. Although to be fair, with Junk Soul, part of the reason that I died so many times is because I was trying to fight SP Navis. This was the only run, this and Gut Soul were the only runs where I was actually trying to get SP Navi chips. I got like Burn Man SP, Cold Man SP, a few other Metal Man SP, like a few other chips I got. I don't think I got Metal Man, but I do remember getting the Burn Man SP chip specifically. And Gut Soul, I tried getting Guts Man SP chip, but failed to do so, so I ended up giving up on that one after a while. But yeah, that was pretty much it for the Junk Soul run. It's not that it was a bad run or anything like that, but it was just a little bit awkward in that regard. And then lastly, we have Wind Soul, which, you know, the video's not up yet. The video for that will be up in 2 weeks, but it's going under Terrible Run. Wind Soul is just awkward. this run was never going to be a good run. The only tools that I have access to with Wind Soul, unfortunately, are, the only wind chips in this game are Air Shot, Tornado, and Windwrack, which Windwrack you cannot even get until like the end game. It's in Town Area 4, and it comes in A code, which is off code with like almost everything else. So in that regard, Wind Soul was really, really awkward. What you guys are going to see is that for Wind Soul, what I decided to do was I allowed myself to also use sword chips, because I figured, the fan effect pulls enemies in closer to me and then I could use my swords. But Wind Soul just, it was really awkward. There were some moments where having Wind Soul was like pretty fun. Being able to like stun enemies with air shots and Windwracks, for example, was like my, Buster and Charge Attack versions of them was pretty fun. Rock Cube, of course, as soon as I had like 3 or 4 copies of Rock Cube in my folder for Wind Soul, because Rock Cube plus Air Shot equals fun, lots of damage and whatnot. So it wasn't like, it's not that Wind Soul itself was like unfun or like actually that terrible of a run. It's just that the building a folder for it was super weird and super awkward. Like, what do you do with Wind Soul when the only wind chips what I could have done was 4 copies of Air Shot, 4 copies of Tornado, and 2 copies of Windwrack? That is 10 chips. That is every wind chip possible in my folder, with the exception of if I had gotten Windman, but I didn't even get to fight Windman in this run. I ended up fighting Roll instead, and even if I did fight Windman and got his chip and the SP chip, I would be like 12 chips in my folder at most would have been wind chips that I could have used with Wind Soul. It was just, Wind Soul is the one that really, more than any other, is severely limited by the 150 standard chip limit of Balnark 4. There's really, like, Balnark 4 would have benefited so much from having even just 30 more standard chips. Like, even if it was at 180 the way Balnark 5 is, I feel like the game could have been so much better. I feel like Air Spin from Balnark 4 and 5, like that chip in Balnark 4 would have been great. It would have been a super awesome addition for Wind Soul to just have something. But unfortunately, as it is, Wind Soul really for the most part feels like it has nothing. Some of the fights were kind of difficult as a result, and even though I was allowing myself to use sword chips, I did not allow Life Sword, which made it a little bit more difficult as well. It's funny, this is the most recent one I did, and it's the one that I remember the least about, because it was nothing special. It really was nothing special. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is my tier list for how my Balnark 4 Mono Soul challenge runs went. I would say, honestly, like, Thunder Soul, Fire Soul, Proto Soul, Guts, and Aqua Soul, those top 5 really, really strongly benefited from having no turn limit. Honestly, Roll Soul as well. Like, almost all of these Double Souls, like, really, really benefited from just, like, not having turn limits. So what I would say personally is, if you're playing Balnark 4 and you have a Double Soul that you really like, especially if, let's say you like using Thunder Soul, for example, and you get to the final tournament in game 1 and oops, you got access to Search Soul, you might not see Thunder Soul until game 2 or 3, just use patch card. Honestly, like, if you're playing on the Legacy Collection using these Double Soul patch cards, so much fun. I'm probably going to continue doing this in the future. Like, I might do like casual playthroughs of these games where it's just like, I'm gonna, like, I'm doing Balnark 4, like, I was doing post game on my stream yesterday. I'm probably gonna like fight against Base or the DS Navis or whatever using Thunder Soul with the patch card active, just because I feel like having the patch cards does make some of these Thunder Soul or some of these Double Souls in general so much more fun. And I mean, I'm comfortable with the tier list as it is. I think this is, I think this is perfect the way it is, honestly. I would say that maybe like Metal Soul was, yeah, this is pretty much it. But that's pretty much it for today, guys. I know this is a different video than what I usually do, but I just needed a video that I can make very quickly and finish in a day because I was on vacation and didn't have time to work on any of my videos. So, If you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed Battle Network 4 for some reason, and because you're a psychopath like me, please give this video a like, subscribe for more Battle Network content. I do a lot of essay style videos talking about different aspects of the Battle Network games. I have 2 series of videos that I make relating to Battle Network. One of them is my folder decoder series, where I go over chip folders that I have used or that are being recommended to me, kind of talking about those folders, how they work, why they're good, what chips go in them, etc. And then my other series, which I think I have a video for this series coming out next week, is my Network Evolution series, where I take individual chips from throughout the series and kind of talk about how they change as the series progressed. Like I know I did my first episode, for example, was on Boomer. So the Boomer chip came out in Battle Network 3 and then existed for the rest of the games, and you know, just like going over all the small details of how Boomer changed going from Battle Network 3 to 4 to 5 and 6. But that's pretty much it for today, guys. Thank you so much as always for watching and, you know, supporting me. Again, please give me a like on this video. It's how I know that you guys would like for me to do more tier lists in the future. I do plan on doing more Battle Network tier lists in the future, so definitely keep an eye out on those. And as always, guys, thank you so much for supporting, and thanks for watching.